Hello and welcome to episode 14 of the JokerOutSubs podcast. Today I will be reading an interview with Bojan Cvjetićanin for Ona Plus, originally published on the 5th of November 2024. The article was written by Teja Roglič, with photographs provided by Primož Lukašić and Vita Orejchuk. My parents gave me a strong sense of identity. Last year's craze at Stožice, summer festival performances, the Eurovision Song Contest, international success. And then everyone asks, what could be bigger? What could be better? But as the band Joker Out releases their new album, they consciously follow the motto, I want less. Singer Bojan Cvjetićanin explains why. This is our home, this is our base. If we don't feel good at home, we can't feel good anywhere. We need to rediscover love in our base. That's what we told ourselves. Interviewer: with the song Blueser, you're returning to love. Why? Bojan: we went through a lot. The songs we released after Eurovision dealt with the most acute situational changes in our lives. Touring, exhaustion, questioning ourselves. Now it's time to have a bit of fun again, and there's probably nothing more beautiful than being in love, brackets, smile. I've been looking into people's stories, into the lives of those around me, seeking beauty. Interviewer: what did you discover? Bojan: that I enjoy writing about love the most. When you write from a place of uncertainty, it's nice to get those feelings out. When you write about love, you search for timeless beats within yourself, not something that's only fleeting. I write about the ideals of love I held as a child, and in the future I'll see how these have either evolved or fallen apart. Interviewer: it's best to write about love. Bojan: when you have a broken heart. Interviewer: your Eurovision song was more socially critical, though it might seem at first glance to be about joy. In it, you say, we won't take part in your games or your divisions. Did the song's message reach people? Bojan: undoubtedly. A lot has changed in a year and a half, not only personally but also in terms of our views of social issues. For the first time, we've connected with young people from abroad. It was fascinating to see how connected the fans from different countries became, encouraging each other, learning new languages, even a lot of Slovene. The desire for peace and unity is very strong at our concerts, so our messages have touched them. But of course, you can never reach everyone, brackets, smile. Interviewer: you mentioned changed perspectives with regards to society. Have any ideals been shattered? Bojan: many ideals have crumbled. In school, learning about war, it always seemed odd to me that the world could just go on at the same time, despite the ongoing disruption in the system. Now, I see that we have access to all the information, that we see and hear what's happening, that we witness an influx of people coming from regions where this is happening, yet everything literally carries on as usual. War has become more of a trend on TikTok or Instagram than something people feel hurt about. This makes me very sad. A lot of ideals that have shattered relate to the life of a musician. We've achieved things we could only have dreamed of, not just as kids. Even 2 years ago, what's happening now would have seemed impossible to me. But the ideal that's crumbled is this one. I don't always know how to appreciate what I have. On tour, I often slipped into negative thoughts, didn't appreciate everything happening to us. This links to the idea that this kind of life is easy, that as a successful musician you only have fun. This, of course, isn't true. It's incredibly exhausting, both mentally and physically. I could go on until tomorrow, listing everything that's fallen apart, but fortunately a lot of new things have also come to be. Interviewer: you're the idol of generations. Do you feel pressure because of that? After all, you're still young guys too. Bojan: no. We already lost the childlike joy of music because we had to start working so much so early and get to know so many new systems. If we also take on the responsibility of raising generations of kids, we could truly fall into a black hole. We need to be role models, but we can't shape our work around that. On the upcoming album, there's a song, Muzyka za dzieci, Music for Children, which touches on this very point. We want to convey that we're not addressing generations who think all younger people are lazy bums who only hinder the world's progress. We're addressing everyone who is young enough at heart to believe in a better world, a brighter tomorrow. Interviewer: more and more musicians are stopping concerts at large venues when fans are in distress or overcrowding happens. You too? Bojan: absolutely. This summer we constantly stopped concerts if people were packed tightly indoors or out in the sun. We handed out a lot of water from the stage, and I even paused a concert if some listener, male, was treating another listener, female, disrespectfully. A concert is a safe space. There's no place there for infringing on the rights of others. Interviewer: that's an interesting topic I wanted to touch on anyway. So what is the rock and roll world of the new generation like? Bojan: it's a lot better. I'm glad we're not a group of drugged out dudes living only for today. Carpe diem really means seize the day, but for us, that doesn't mean picking every fruit that exists in the world. Waking up healthy and energized, wanting to go to a concert, being open to meeting new people, our fans, being creative, that's what it means to seize the day. Sure, sometimes we go on a trip, we do have fun too, but I'm glad that sex, drugs and rock and roll aren't our guiding principles in the band. When we watched the documentary about Motley Crue, we saw how they started with heroin and opiates and ended with smoothies and fruit. Well, we're already at the fruit and smoothie stage, brackets, laughs. Interviewer: we're constantly building a relationship that gets deeper every day, even though it seems like it can't get any deeper. You told me before the Stojica concert, as I was stunned when you said that you were going on holiday with the guys right after the concert. How much do you invest in relationships within the band? We know it's sometimes challenging to nurture a relationship between 2 people, let alone 5. Bojan: this is like a partnership with 5 people. Except for intimacy, all the other elements of partnership are there. We're companions. We often live together, work together. The dynamics are demanding. I talk a lot about this with fellow musicians. Recently, I was talking to Mr. Vlado Kreslin, and we concluded that being in a band requires a touch of madness. Even if it ends someday, nothing is guaranteed. I know I have 4 lifelong friends. We exist as friends, even beyond the band. Interviewer: success demands hard work. You've told me before how sure you were of your path in the band, of your decisions, and how hard you work to achieve what you have. And we're back to the topic that some might say your generation isn't hardworking, that you're quick to say what you won't do at the workplace. Bojan: the young people I know could hardly be described as not hardworking. I'd rather say we're diligent, and the drive to work comes from the strong pressure that you need to achieve a lot very quickly, or else you won't make it in this world. As for them being quicker to say no, maybe they know they can't live that way if something doesn't work, and to live is very costly. Young people feel that they don't have to stick rigidly to one profession, that they can change courses, jobs, and find something that suits them. We're far from the days when the son was a blacksmith because the father was a blacksmith, and the daughter stayed home as a housewife. But we also have to know that there's more and more uncertainty, precarious work. If Gen Z is the way it is, I wouldn't attribute that to the generation itself, but rather to the boomer generation. Everything that makes life harder for us isn't the product of our ideas and actions. But it's also true that sometimes you need to stop, think, and make a decision. I'd like to do something today, something different tomorrow, but that's not realistic. When you're bombarded by choices from all ends, you have to make decisions. If there are 3 shirts in a store, I'll pick one. If there are 250, I might end up buying sneakers instead. Brackets, laughs. Interviewer: you performed at a concert aimed at contributing to the best possible care, treatment and support for women with gynecological cancer. You probably get invited to participate in quite a few charitable events. How do you choose them? This concert likely wasn't a hard choice, as both of your parents are doctors. Bojan: my father is a gynecologist, my mother is a paediatrician, so naturally when I got the invitation, I immediately thought my dad would be happy if I could perform there. Otherwise, I choose events based on 2 criteria: whether it's something important and whether I'm home at that time. I've often had to turn down an event I would have really liked to participate in simply because I wasn't here. Interviewer: life has taken you all over in recent years. What have your parents given you that has stayed with you and has been proven most useful today? Bojan: they gave me a sense of normality. I'm an ordinary person who takes everything in moderation. I didn't become a hedonist, nor did I give in to the patterns that the environment might impose. They gave me a strong sense of who I am and what I am, unconditional self-confidence and self-respect, and the certainty that I'm never alone in anything. Interviewer: recently, the dramaturge Nina Kuclar-Stikovic and I talked about how Generation Z might be the first to actively work through its traumas, though she noted that taking on such responsibility across generations is a huge task. In the end, you might even feel worse. If you only become aware of your baggage but can't overcome it, it can feel even worse than if you had never been made aware of it at all, she said. What do you observe around you in your own generation? Bojan: Mental health has never been as openly discussed as it is today. I know many people who go to therapy. It's actually strange that mental health was never treated before, that this stigma existed. If you have a cold, you stay home. You also heal a broken arm. Today's generations have managed to break free from these shackles. The individual is becoming increasingly more important. People are working through the things in their minds, and this bothers many people from generations who suppressed everything and unleashed their traumas onto others. I often think how unfortunate it is that we don't practice everyday therapy in our surroundings. Everyone surely has someone whom they trust. We talk about all sorts of things, but we never ask each other how we are and share that honestly. Now I do this with a few friends, and it's really nice. I go to my friends for therapy. Brackets, smiles. Interviewer. Nina also mentioned that patriarchy has wronged not only women, but men too. It's unfair that men couldn't show emotions and always had to be strong. It always helps if you can share your feelings with someone. What do you think? Bojan. The Neanderthal perception of masculinity is passé. We can all first tell ourselves and then tell others how we feel and what's going on in our heads. Interviewer. This summer you performed at festivals. Now you have a new album and you'll be performing at various venues again with tickets quickly selling out. It's a carousel that never stops. You mentioned earlier that you caught yourself maybe not appreciating it anymore. What do you do now to keep that from happening? Bojan. For the tour that's coming with the release of the new album, we consciously followed the motto, I want less. Last year we played in Stojice, before that in Križanka. This year we toured Europe, and everyone was asking us what big thing we're preparing next. But we were only talking about how nice it would be to play at Ljubljana's Svetlačana again. Pass by Maribor too, go a bit to the clubs in the Balkans, and that's it. This is our home. This is our base. If we don't feel good at home, we can't feel good anywhere. We told ourselves that we need to find love in our base again. I'm glad we recognise this, that we're not just banging our heads against a brick wall. The purpose of this tour is simply to enjoy it. Interviewer. A few years ago, you told my colleague Robert Rebol, my fellow journalist and your fellow musician, that you'd like to have kids while still young. Yet you also say you're in a period where several of your ideals have collapsed as you look at the world around you. Does the desire still remain? Bojan. When I said that, I was thinking I'd have my first child between the ages of 28 and 30. Then Robert told me that having a child young doesn't necessarily mean that. Brackets, laughs. I see it now too, as some of my friends already have children, and some even their second. My calendar no longer just has friends' birthdays, but, for instance, the first birthday of a friend's child. Brackets, laughs. Yes, I think a lot about how this world is in many ways not what I imagined it would be. But I guess it's always been that way throughout history. Things have never been ideal. I think everyone in every era has felt the world is going to... Well, that's how it seems to me too. Brackets, laughs. Thanks for listening. You can find the original translation and many more translations on our Tumblr, X, Instagram, TikTok and Facebook accounts under the name JokerOutSubs.